Peace and blessings, and welcome to another episode of the Author Spotlight, which is a part of the Self-Publishing 30 Days family. I am your host, Rob YB Youngblood. I serve as the president of sales for Self-Publishing 30 Days, and in many circles, I'm known as your LinkedIn locksmith. I have the very esteemed pleasure of having Daphne Johnson with me, and Daphne is an author, a writer, a transformational speaker and facilitator, and I'm going to give her the opportunity to share a little bit about herself and her background, and then we'll get into it a little bit about your book, if that's okay, Daphne. Welcome to the Author Spotlight.
Thank you so much for the invitation. I'm really honored to be here.
Well, it's definitely a pleasure. One of the things that we strive to do is to give authors an opportunity to increase their visibility, credibility, and profitability as they strive to impact more lives. So, Daphne, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Sure. As you mentioned, I'm an author, a speaker, also serve in ministry, and I'm a mom I'm an empty nester now. So I've got a little freedom now, which is why I ended up taking the time to write my book after putting it on the back burner for some time. But most importantly, I think I would say that, I believe that following after your passion, your purpose is really what will lead to happiness and success. So I try to live my life by that. And I want to encourage my readers to do the same.
I love it. I love it. I love it. So empty nester, huh? Tell me, what is that like?
It is a good feeling. Obviously, the years of raising children, you tend to be focused on them more than you are on yourself. Right. I mean, parents tend to do that. But I'm very proud that I have 2 young adult children and a granddaughter. One of my children lives in Boston. The other lives here in the city where I reside, and that's in Milwaukee, Wisconsin.
Okay, Milwaukee, Wisconsin, the home of the NBA champions. Come on now.
Yes, Bucks and six.
Bucks and six. For those of you who don't know, y'all might be listening to this years down the line. We are at a time where the Milwaukee Bucks have won the NBA Finals. So shout out to Giannis and his squad. So I know you guys went super crazy after several years of not having a championship. So that's congratulations to you and your city.
We love it. We love it.
Yeah. So let's get into a little bit about your book. She said yes. Tell us a little bit more about that. What is your book about? How did you get the title? Let's get right into it.
Sure. Let me start with how I got the title.
Okay.
I share with you that I'm in ministry.
Yep.
And so I actually preached a message by that title, She Said Yes, during our Women's Month in October of 2018.
Okay.
The message was well received, and it utilized the story of Mary, who was visited by the angel Gabriel, and he told her, you have an assignment. You've been chosen.
Okay.
And she contemplated the decision to agree to what she'd been called to. And we all know that the end of that story was that she gave birth to our Savior, Jesus Christ, for those of you that are believers. So my premise is that we also have an assignment. We've been chosen. God has given us something that we are to carry and to carry out on the earth. And the impact of our yes will not only change our lives, but it will change the lives of others. Ooh. So that's the premise of the message. And so after that message, I got a lot of great feedback, but more importantly, God wouldn't let me go, which She Said Yes. I really got the impression that that message wasn't a one-time thing, that there was something to it, that it needed to be shared wider and broader. Right. So I wrestled with it for a while, and I did decide that, yes, I should write a book about She Said Yes. And I used the same Bible passage as the story guide to guide my reader through the journey that I take the reader on, to help come to some points in their own lives and to make a decision to pursue their own passion and their own purpose and to say yes. So that's where the title came from.
I love it. I literally got chills when you said that, because you're exactly right. The decisions that we make today impact the lives of others tomorrow. Obviously, it impacts our lives, but also impacts the lives of others tomorrow. And just by saying yes, it opens up the door for us to be able to impact those lives. I think that's a tremendous deal. So tell me, had you always thought of being an author? Was it something that, like, did you grow up saying, I'm going to eventually write a book, or what was that catalyst? I know you preached the message, but was that the catalyst that led to you doing that, or did you always have it in your heart that you wanted to be an author?
Actually, she said, yes, it's not my first book.
Okay, very good.
I wrote a book several years ago. It was a devotional for single mothers. And it was during my own journey as a single mother that I started journaling.
Right.
And at the end of some time, I found that I had the substance of what could be shared as a devotional that could be an encouragement and an inspiration to other single mothers.
Very good.
Now, that was the beginning, and I knew that writing was in my heart, excuse me, but I didn't decide to pursue it any further. Like I mentioned, I was focused on raising kids and, thinking about doing more writing really wasn't on my primary agenda.
Right.
But then I had a moment where I had an aha moment, actually. I was working as a recruiter and I interviewed a young lady for a job. And she asked me, by the way, are you a writer? Did you write a book? I said, yes. She says, well, I read your book. And she shared, she shared with me her story that she had come across this devotional while she was living in a shelter for women who were leaving domestic violence.
Wow.
And she shared with me how my words impacted her and encouraged her at a time that she really didn't feel that her life held worth anymore. And that I brought encouragement to her. And it hit me that, wow, something that I did as an act of obedience. I have no idea how the book got into the shelter. So I knew that was a God thing.
Yeah.
It then convinced me that I have a voice and I have a message to share, and that I could no longer leave my book project for She Said Yes on the back burner.
Right.
So that's when I really made the decision to take off the brakes and pursue it and get it done.
That is amazing. And so with that being stated, you got that testimony and you got that message. Who do you primarily target for this book? Obviously, you talk about believers, which I'm a believer as well. But is there a specific target? Like if you think about, that what one target, I mean, we can always talk about big groups and things of that nature, but if there was like one particular target that you would want to get She Said Yes into the hands of, who would that be?
I have to tell you that because I'm a woman and because I tend to minister to the hearts of women, I had a woman in mind when I wrote the book, just like I could sit down at the table and have a conversation with a sister over a cup of coffee.
Right.
I will tell you, though, that purpose is a universal principle.
Correct.
And I do have male readers and, so I got love for the brothers, but of course I can't hit everybody. So if I were to try and identify the person who would be most interested in my book, I would say it's that person that has been saying to themselves, there's got to be more to life than this. I feel like there's something I should be doing. Can't quite put my finger on it, or it's keeping me up at night because I'm wrestling with understanding exactly what this is. And my premise is that your purpose tends to call you.
Yes, it does.
And there comes a point where you have to make a decision. And that decision is to say yes, right?
Yes, absolutely.
And so to answer the call to purpose, and that's the subtitle of the book, it's time to answer the call to purpose.
I love it.
So that person who is in that moment of, I need to do something.
Right.
And my book helps you do some reflective work to really understand and better understand perhaps what is it that is my purpose and how do I go about taking out the steps to begin walking in my purpose. I also provide some inspiration through some other examples that help you see that, again, we are all called to something. And something that you're called to is not just for you.
That's right.
It's meant to help others. And so those are some of the key ingredients that are in my story. And I take the reader through a journey and through some reflection to help them come to a place where they say yes.
Yeah. I love it. So tell me, obviously you're a two-time author. What was the most difficult part of becoming an author? I know we have a lot of folks who are aspiring authors who listen to this podcast. We have current authors, we have veteran authors. Like let's talk about that. What was the most challenging aspect of first getting started as an author? And then with this current project, was there any challenges that you had to overcome to get this thing out to the public?
You know what, I will tell you that the first book, it really was a matter of doing my part. And I say that to say, I was worried about a lot of the other mechanics related to the final product,
Right,
as opposed to doing the part that I've been called to do, and that's to write.
right.
And so I focused on the writing, and that was the message I heard from God, just write. And when I declared to others that were around me, matter of fact, I remember at a family gathering, I told my family I was going to write a book. I hadn't started writing, but I said, I'm going to write a book.
Right, right.
And I have a cousin who is a graphic artist, didn't even realize that she would be able to help me. But she was like, oh, I got you when you're ready for your cover.
Right.
And then my brother, who was an IT professional, said, oh, I'll design your website for you. And I thought, oh, that's two things that I don't have to think about.
Right.
And so I can sit down and write, which is my part. So I focused on putting it together and made that decision to go forward. And I trusted that with the help that I had and the resources that I could pull together, that I would come away with the completed project.
That's amazing. So basically what you're saying, if I can kind of break that down a little bit, you came up with the idea first, right? You hadn't even started writing, you had the idea. But then because you spoke it and you shared it out there, you had a team or of people that had specialties that added value to this project as well. Is that accurate?
Yeah, that's accurate. Now, I did say that I journaled a little bit prior to that. So I had some inspirational thoughts that I was able to pull from, but I hadn't sat down and decided that, okay, I'm going to put this together in a book. That wasn't where I began. Yeah.
So what tips would you give to a new author that's just getting started that would help them along the way? Like if you think about what you've experienced, what you experienced with your first book, what you experienced with your second book, what tips would you give to an aspiring author that has an idea but they have yet to put it together? What tips would you give?
I will tell you that my approach the second time around was more powerful. And my tip would come from the premise that I had a stronger why.
Okay.
I think having a why do you want to write this book, and what is your message, and who are you writing it for?
Right.
And really having a strong idea of the audience that you wish to reach with your message. That would be the first thing I'd say. The second thing I would say that worked for me was developing some discipline.
Okay.
Because I mentioned, throwing things on the back burner and never getting to it. When I finally decided that I am going to get this book done, I created a writing schedule.
Okay.
And I worked on a schedule to get it done. I also worked with some people similar to what you do with self-publish in 30 days to help shepherd me through the process for those pieces that I didn't need to focus on.
Good.
Yeah.
Good. So let's talk about the future. Where do you see yourself in the future as a two-time author? You're in ministry, you're a newly freed mom, you know what I'm saying, with being an empty nester. Where do you see your future? What are some of the things that you would want to accomplish within the next, let's say, 6 months to a year, 2 to 5 years? Like where do you see yourself in the near future?
Yeah, in the most immediate future, I'm looking to create a campaign around She Said Yes.
Okay.
It is my vision that I will have at least 10,000 individuals who will themselves declare, I said yes to my purpose.
I love it.
And so with that, it means that I will be sharing the message through speaking engagements, through some social media campaigns, and other ways where I can actually reach people and gather them into a community. And so that we can be enriched and empowered together.
I love that.
Above and beyond that, I am looking to eventually establish a podcast.
Okay.
Myself.
Okay.
So I want to continue to be a voice and to be able to help encourage and inspire and empower individuals who wish to identify and walk in their purpose, and provide whatever resources I can offer to those who have need for support for their purpose journey.
Yeah, I love it. And that's very doable, right? So it's very doable. It wasn't like you said anything like you want to travel to the moon or anything like that, right? So everything that you shared is very much doable. Let's tell the folks, how can they reach you? How can they get a copy of your book? How can they reach you directly if they want to establish a professional relationship? We're big on helping our guests to increase their visibility and credibility as well as their profitability. So if someone's listening to this podcast and they want to get connected, they want to order your book, what's the best way for them to contact you directly? And then how can they get a copy of your book?
Sure. My website is www.shesaidYes.live. That's my home on the internet. A little bit more about me is there. I can be contacted through my website, and the book can also be ordered through my website. I also would invite anyone who visits my website to subscribe to my VIP email list. That way I can reach out to you as well, so that if I have updates or events, something that may be of interest to you, I would have the ability to communicate with you as well. Now, my social media is also attached to my website. So if you go to that website, you'll actually see links to my Facebook, my Instagram, and my Twitter.
Very good. And I also know that you're on LinkedIn, right? Little Birdie said you're on LinkedIn as well. Is that
A little birdie, yes. And you know what? I learned so much from you as it relates to LinkedIn, and you were very helpful in my initial strategy when I announced my book launch. I will have to tell you that I learned that from you in Clubhouse, by the way.
In Clubhouse.
So actually, Clubhouse is another great venue for connecting for authors. But yeah, so I'm also on LinkedIn as well, Daphne Johnson.
That's good. That's good. And for those of you who are listening, we are definitely on Clubhouse 5 days a week within the Authors Club. I actually have the pleasure of serving as the host for LinkedIn for Authors, which we do on Thursdays at 12 p.m. Eastern. So definitely feel free to join us. Well, Daphne, it's been a pleasure chatting with you. I'm so happy that we got a chance to talk about you, talk about your book, your passion behind it. Are there any final words that you would want to share with the listeners that will aid them in their journey, or anything that you just have on your heart right now that you'd like to share?
Sure. I would like to say to those that are listening that whatever it is that you feel that God has put in your heart to do, that time isn't promised. So I would really encourage you to do it now. Take the time to understand what that thing is that only you do, the way you do it, and get to work. And because not only will it release you and the gift that's in you, but I would say that someone's waiting for you. What it is that's in you is really meant to help someone else.
Yeah.
And if you fail to listen to the call, to answer the call, then that means that you might be impeding the progress of that person whose next step might hinge on your obedience. So get to work, walk out your purpose, and get on your journey.
Oh my goodness. You heard it here. There's nothing else that needs to be said. Daphne, thank you once again for the opportunity to have you on our podcast. And I'm looking forward to your podcast dropping so that we can continue to support you. For those of you who have been listening to us, thank you for supporting Self-Published in 30 Days, where we focus on individuals and let them know that this is the year for your new book. I am your host, Rob YB Youngblood, President of Sales for Self-Published in 30 Days, and your LinkedIn locksmith. And I want you to remember, be encouraged, be blessed, but most of all, share the faith. And the way that you do that is by walking in your gift, because your gift will make room for you. We'll talk soon. Peace.
Thank you.